And we are here with a very special guest. Pleased to have here with me one of the rising stars in the industry right now. She's doing her thing. We're here with hip hop artist Ladibree.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You've been doing quite a lot in your career, going to city. You just recently released a brand new single. It's been out for quite some time.
The song ultimately was a very vibey song. I was in the studio. One of the things that I really wanted to make sure I did was work on my execution of my vocals. I give a lot of energy in my performances. That's just because the adrenaline. One of the things I wanted to do was to think about making something that allowed me to show that. So where it's just like, you could imagine what the energy would be like if I was on stage. First line of the song, I'm coming in high energy, just giving it up. And then it kind of goes on through the rest of the song. I want to make sure that I give my personality in my music, but there is a difference when you get on stage.
What's it like being from Staten Island, and what's the music scene out there?
Being from Staten Island is interesting space to be in, because in New York, Staten Island has a reputation for kind of being like the forgotten borough, or like this bastard child of New York City, because of the fact that I wouldn't say it's out of the way, but like if you're talking in the context of like Manhattan, Brooklyn, all these things where the subways kind of like just directly connect to one another, bridges are right there. In Staten Island, you kind of have to take a ferry across. The reality of it is that there's not that much of a disconnect. It's just that a lot of people don't take the time to come out to Staten Island. So they don't know about it. And what do people do with things that they don't know? They tend to think negatively about it. But I love being from Staten Island. It has its quirks, it has its things, don't get me wrong. But ultimately, I think it's just a place. It's a very unique place to be from, because it has a mesh of a few different things. And in my life experience of being in Staten Island, I got to experience pretty much all of it. Staten Island has a bit of suburbia that exists within it. And then there's a bit of the more urban, city type part. And I've lived my life in Staten Island in both of those parts and experiencing what it's like. Interestingly enough, being from Staten Island, when you go into New York or when you leave New York, it becomes very interesting, because you're like, oh, where are you from? You say I'm from Staten Island. And then you'll get some people that be like, oh, you're from Staten Island, or whatever the case may be. And it's just like, whatever. And even in that context, people try to play you if you're from Staten Island. That's just what it is. But, we have a lot of history. Believe it or not, the UMCs, we have Full Force, we have, of course, Wu-Tang Clan, Christina Aguilera. Like, current music scene right now is buzzing, man. If you don't know what's going on in Staten Island, you will. I'm just leaving it at that, because there's me, there's my homie Nick 718, there's my boy Truth, Joey Flats, there's all of us. We're all coming from MLM Entertainment, and we're all from Staten. The music scene, I would say it's competitive. It can be very competitive because it's such a small place, and we kind of all know each other and tend to know what we're doing, but it doesn't have to be unproductive type of competition. There's a lot of times, especially in New York, where it's like, oh, he's doing this, and so he's competition to me, or because he's doing this or they're doing this, I feel like I can't fuck with them, or I can't support them, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, it shouldn't work like that. There's all room for us and space for us to eat. It's just a matter of, are you going to put the work in to make sure you eat? Don't get mad at the next person for eating because they put the work in and you didn't. That's home. That's home.
If somebody were to come to Staten Island, what's the first thing, or what's one of the places that you would take them?
Ralph's or Danino's, which is like one of the like places that you go to eat. So like Danino's is this dope pizzeria in Staten Island, and they don't sell slices, they just sell pies. It's like like a real Italian pizza restaurant. It's fire pizza, and then right across the street you got Ralph's Italian Ices, and they have everything from ice to cream ice to ice cream, and it's just busting. And that's kind of like one of my favorite things to be able to experience in Staten Island, is the fact that we have a lot of good food on Staten Island. I'll say that. Like, to a certain extent, if you've been on Staten Island, you live on Staten Island, you may be like, oh, we have nothing. That's probably because you've eaten everything on Staten Island already. But, if you haven't been to Staten Island, there's a lot of good places to eat, all types of stuff. And North Shore, of course, is where it's buzzing and most diverse. So you can get everything from Sri Lankan food to African food to Italian food to we got it all. And then, of course, the water is right there, so you can check out the pier and everything.
So when you're on the road doing shows and whatnot, I would probably think those are some of the places that you probably miss when you're on the road, and you're like,
one thing I miss most whenever I'm not in New York, there's no delis out there. Like, there's no bodegas. There's no place you just go in and say, can I get a bacon, egg, and cheese? Or can I get a sausage, egg, and cheese? Or can I get a bagel? It's not like that. The pizza is... The pizza is Domino's and Pizza Hut. From New York, if you know, you know.
I know you studied at Notre Dame. What was your realization? Did you have any other career goals in mind besides picking music for your career?
To a certain extent, I always wanted music to be my career goal, career path. The time I recognized that it could really happen for me was when I was studying abroad in Tokyo. I was in Tokyo, and up until that point, I wasn't able to do an insane amount with my music. Like, yes, I had the opportunity to open up for a few different people at Notre Dame for different events and stuff like that. So I've opened up for Rory, Bryce Vine, Todd Rundgren, and even got on stage with Magic Jordan when they came out there. But I didn't really get a chance to dig my hooks into music for real, because school was just consumed so much of my time. But when I went away to study abroad, schedule was a lot different, and Tokyo is a much more active place than South Bend, Indiana. Shout out to South Bend, but it's not a mega city. And Tokyo is, so there's just so many people to meet. There's so many things to do. And while I was out there, I just, spent a lot of time connecting with people, going to different events, just telling people who I was and what I did, and even finding studios to record in. And I speak Japanese and spoke Japanese really well at the time. So I would get on the phone and speak Japanese and reserve studios and get it done. But one of the things that happened was, while I was just making connections and showing up and letting people know that I was here, right? that I was there, was that ended up getting opportunities to perform. And I think there was a few different shows. One show that really stood out to me and that made me feel like I could do this for real was when I was performing at Senki's Penthouse in Harajuku, at this event called Tokyo Love Hotels. And that entire event is basically, so what they'll have DJs come through all night, do sets upstairs of the penthouse. They'll have people selling clothes, making art, doing henna tattoos, you name it, they're doing it. And then they'll have performances. And that night I was the performer. It was crazy. The reaction, the response to my music at the time was just insane to me. And then I had friends that I made out there who came through and brought their friends. And we did a song that we ended up doing off on the fly at one of my friends' houses in Tokyo, which was a remix of some UK song, but we called it Tokyo Bop. Performed that, and they all knew the song. They were all singing my other songs with me, just kind of catching on. And I was being in the US, more specifically being in places like New York and LA, where everybody's a rapper, the energy towards other artists can be very lackluster. They treat you like you're a dime a dozen. And to be fair, a lot of people are, but it's another thing to experience when you go to a place where the majority of people don't even speak your language, and they're messing with you, and they want to get to know you, and they want to get to know more of your music. And that just made me realize, it's if I was trash, they would not care. So I know I'm not trash. I know I can do this. And now it's just a matter of doing it. So after I graduated in 2020, I figured, it's go time. 2020 was 2020. I allowed it to kind of be a time in which I developed my sound and tried to figure out what I could do with my voice and what I wanted to do with my voice. And then took that into 2021 and just kind of decided to build on that, develop different skills, push myself out of the box. And 2021 is extremely successful as far as, me getting different opportunities to perform, working on different music, and even releasing a few songs. But 2022 is time we capitalize. And as you can see,
what was it like being in Japan? How did you get to Japan? And if there's a message that you want to translate in Japan, what would it be? Being
in Japan was awesome. I was there for about 5-6 months, taking classes, and obviously just kind of exploring the city. It was great. It was very interesting to see a place be so homogenous in comparison to the US. Not to say that the US doesn't have its majorities and minorities, but to be in a place where 98% of the population is one ethnicity or one race was very different, especially when you could tell you go into places and they've never seen a Black person before. And to a certain extent, that could be jarring, that could be uncomfortable, but other times it's just it's cool. But being in a place like Tokyo is interesting because it's a touristy place. So everybody is kind of used to seeing different people to a certain extent, especially people that aren't from the country. To that point, there's a lot of people in Tokyo who aren't from Japan, and I ended up connecting with them. So I made friends in the UK. I made friends that were from Algeria. I made friends that were from all different types of places. All different types of people come to New York to either just be creative. Ultimately, it was just a matter of just putting myself out there. And if I had a message that I wanted to give, I won't necessarily translate anything, but I'll say this.
If you want, you can translate it.
I'm rusty. I'll say this. At least the thing I got the most out of Tokyo, or the message I would give to someone from my time in Tokyo: be yourself, know yourself, love yourself. When I was out there, I got into meditation meditation. I had a professor who was from Baltimore, but he was a Buddhist. He took us to a place called Kamakura, pretty much the home of a lot of different temples, and even the big Buddha that you may see on like, Google and stuff like that, or as a tourist place. But we just walked around different temples, walked up hills, even meditated on the beach. And my time out there really allowed me to kind of just get in touch with me and my mind, just the whole concept of meditation and manifestation. Really, that entire time just allowed me to kind of just be myself, know myself, and love myself, and then bring it back home. I'll say this though, I definitely miss the food, man. And I miss the energy of the people. Like, the people in Japan were actually really, really awesome. Natives, or if they were non-natives, the energy was always good. I remember this one time I was actually doing an internship while I was in Japan, interning at this art gallery, and they were putting together a digital art exhibition. So the day of the exhibition, kind of running around, making sure everybody has everything they need, and they told me to run out and go get some tape. And I couldn't find the store that they needed the electrical tape from. And I go into like this mom and pop shop, and they're both Japanese, older Japanese. I know for a fact that they don't speak English, so I'm doing my best to, communicate and get directions. The woman who was in there with her husband, she was like leaving out, and she saw me, and we ended up just talking a little bit, and she actually took me, like kind of walked me to the store that I needed to go to get the tape. So like that was the kind of energy vibe that I got while I was out there. And just in general, it made it very, very easy to be a creative in Tokyo. Like, I was able to get a video shot out there for free just because somebody liked my music, somebody liked what I was doing. And this person had shot videos for like Burberry, Gucci, all types of stuff. I met up with different models that, just wanted to like get to know my music and just hang out, and brought me into different spaces, had me introduce me to different people. So I'll say this, there's, we talk about gatekeeping in the US. It's significantly less existent. Outside of that, the culture and the food. Ramen, dango, we're talking about karage, we're talking about all types of stuff, man. I specifically, I have this thing, I love Family Mart. If you've never been to Japan, you don't know what it is, but Family Mart is like the equivalent to like a 7-Eleven. By the way, 7-Elevens in Tokyo are far superior than 7-Elevens in the US. You just need to know that. The amount of food and the quality of food that's in a 7-Eleven in Japan, ridiculous. Called Family Mart, and they had like my favorite things, which were like Family Chiki, which is kind of like this like big chicken thing that, you kind of just take and go on the road with, butter chicken curry, and then also like onigiri. So if you don't know what onigiri is, basically like a little rice ball with seaweed, and the shrimp and mayo one, or the shrimp and tuna one. Yeah, I miss it. I can't wait to go back and eat all that stuff again, because it's not really here.
Going back into music, I know that before you wanted to pursue a career in music, I know that you had a passion for dancing.
Leading up to college, and then ultimately leading to my music, which I still kind of incorporate to this day. But I know you asked about things that I wanted to do outside of music, or career paths I had. I wanted to play basketball. That was something I took very seriously in my life, and that was the expectation of the people around me, because they knew how involved in basketball I was. And I decided to not play basketball in college because I wanted to go to college and be able to focus on my music. And I knew for a fact that if I did that, if I played basketball in college, I would be able to do it, even to the extent that I was able to do it a little bit at Notre Dame when I wasn't playing basketball. Danced for a while. I danced competitively from the ages of like 5 to 16, 17. And I did all types of dance, from like tap, jazz, breakdance, acrobatics, hip hop, a lot of years, along with the basketball. There was a point in time I wanted to be an astronaut, architect, computer programmer. My desires to further my education kind of stemmed from my desire to, when I initially went to Notre Dame, for me to be in tech. And I got there, and I liked the computer science and the classes, but it just didn't really resonate with me. So I ended up going into the business school, doing IT first, which was still cool. And then I got to the point of classes where we take classes for all of the different, specialties within the business school. And one of the classes I loved most was Principles of Management. The professor was actually one of the co-founders of Keurig. It was just awesome, because everything that we were talking about in that class was about solving business problems, or pretty much, finding new ways to do things within business to either generate more profit or build a better culture, or whatever the case may be. And that is something that I took a lot of interest in, because I looked at myself, especially as an artist, as a business. And I hadn't come across a class or a major that allowed me to kind of tie my desire to be an artist, my desire to further my education together. And once I was able to do that, everything just kind of clicked from there. And business kind of became, well, consulting really more specifically became my major. But I was in the business school doing all that stuff, you know.
So knowing that you played sports, I definitely got to ask you, what was your thoughts on Notre Dame's success in the NCAA tournament?
Listen, I watched the women's. I was hurt. I was so hurt when they lost to NC State, because they were a good team. Like, shout out Dara Mabry, shout outs to Olivia, shout outs to the whole team, shout outs to Neil Ivy. First, man, look, we lit right now. But I'm saying it hurt that we didn't make it to the elite. Well, we were in the Elite Eight. No, we didn't make it to the Elite Eight. We were in the Sweet 16. I think we made it to the Elite Eight, but it was sad that we didn't get to the big dance as far as the Final Four and get to play South Carolina or UConn, because you know we like to play them. We'll be back next year. It's not a problem. We had a really tough season the year before, and to see where we're at right now, you can only think that Notre Dame is a dynasty. It's not going to end. It's just a matter of, you know, it ebbs and flows. That's sports. That's life. I have a friend who's from Hawaii who played for Notre Dame, who now plays for the Chargers.
I actually interviewed his brother.
Really? So you know Alohi?
I interviewed his brother. Brother went to school out here.
That entire family is dope.
Yeah, so we touched upon earlier your experience at Notre Dame and how you liked it. And what can you say, James Blake, Lauryn Hill, and Drake?
I love all three of them. Music, especially when it comes to being able to mesh singing and just being a dope rhymer on a song. Like, I think she's like one of the best to ever do it like that. Yes, of course, you've had people like Drake do it. You've had people like Kendrick do it. You've had Kanye do it. You've had a lot of people do it, but I don't think too many people have done it like Lauren has. Effortless and seamless. Like, it's just, her voice sounds like she's supposed to be rapping and singing. There's a lot of people that, you know, will do both, and one sounds better than the other, but when she does, both sound equally perfect when she does it. So she's a huge influence for me in regards to how I approach music and how I push myself. Make sure the boys know not to mess with me. But, you know, love her, love James Blake, and just because he's just so different. When I first listened to him, I don't think I'd heard anybody sound like him or anybody who had his sound. His sound is very experimental, but also very based in, like, can't even say techno. I don't even know how to explain it. It's alternative. It's very like spacey. He's a great artist because he uses all these different sounds. And then he even uses his voice as an instrument. I appreciate artists that do that because it allows to create a certain kind of soundscape within a song to immerse someone. And when you're able to immerse someone with nothing but your voice, I think that's an extreme talent. So I love what he does. I love the way he writes. I love his songwriting. A lot of Drake's music when I was younger, because I really didn't get hip to Drake until the Take Care album, and then I went backwards. A lot of the music that I really tapped into him with really just resonated with me, recognized that he was saying a lot of stuff that I didn't even know how to verbalize. And that just made me be more introspective about myself and my feelings. And to this day, he's really the inspiration for how I like to write music that can possibly reach someone else, make them feel the same way that his music made me feel. And that you may not necessarily know how to say it, but once you hear someone say it, you know that that's exactly how you feel, and you can't forget that.
So touching up on that, what can you say that you enjoy about music, and how do you keep up with the current music trend?
I love the fact that music can literally take you back to a specific time and place in your life. There's some songs I hear, some songs that I've written that will take me back to who I was, what I was going through that time that song was out, or during that time that I was listening to that particular song. And I love the fact that, you know, it can do a lot of things for your emotions. A certain song, just based on the scientific structure of how chords are made and what they do and why they sound the way they do, is all about feeling. There are some songs that are literally meant to make you happy. There are some songs that are meant to make you sad. There are some songs that are meant to make you romantic and want to love someone. And there's songs that make you want to just think about life. Music has many different purposes and has the ability to bring people together that you never would have thought, even be in the same room having conversation. But as far as staying up with the current music trends, I can't even say that I really, really can't. Like, to a certain extent, especially now when I'm in a space where I'm like constantly writing and try to create, like, I'll listen to music, but it's never with the intention of trying to stay with the new with what's new. I'll listen because I'm curious to see, you know, what certain artists are doing or how they're approaching projects or how they're approaching songs, just to understand where the I guess the music taste is going, or the fact that like years ago we were listening to like 3-4 minute songs. Now songs are probably 2:30 to 3 minutes max. And understanding how that structure has changed. Nobody's really doing bridges anymore. People are going verse, hook, and the hook better be fire because you only got about, you know, 30 seconds to get it out. And then the verse has to be on point because you got to keep people's attention span. You know, I'll just say that like keeping up with the current music trends, it's less of that and more just like finding what I think sounds good and just, you know, kind of anchoring on that. I appreciate artists that even if they are with the current music trends don't sound like everybody else, because I don't want to sound like everyone else.
And I know that you've written tons of music. What has been some of your, or what is a favorite song that you've wrote?
If we're talking about things that helped me like kind of explain what I was going through or help me overcome stuff, or even just kind of reinforce thoughts, the positive thoughts I had to kind of allow myself to have about myself, that song would probably be Born Winner, which was probably like my first real melodic song that I done and released as a single. But the entire context of that song was just to be like, kid is back and I'm coming for real. I'm born for this, born to win, and by all means I'm gonna make it happen. It just also happened to be a song that could resonate with other people. Me calling myself a born winner was a great, you know, concept and a great idea, but being able to encourage others to see themselves as born winners. Another one of my favorite songs, the last song on my last EP that I dropped back in 2018, which is called Still Praying, talks a lot about, you know, life and how I feel. But I think the whole context of that song, especially at the end of the second verse, was to just kind of express, you can't stop praying, or you can't stop, you know, working. You can't stop manifesting. You can't stop doing what you've been doing to get where you're at just because you got there. You get what I'm saying? A lot of people tend to only think about doing the work until they get a place and then they stop. But it's like, why stop what's already been working for you, right? If you've been praying to get to where you're at today, you get there, why stop the prayers? Why? Because you got there? People would say thank you. You know what I'm saying? Another song I would say is my favorite is like, it's called Stay True. And the other one is called Act One, Scene One. Interestingly enough, one is the intro song. The other is the outro song. Stay True is literally just about kind of like talking about my perspective on the world and how I saw it, and honestly probably how it saw me and who I wanted to be as far as like music and life goes. And the whole message behind that song was to just stay true to yourself, be yourself, and never let anyone take that away, because that's really all you have. Someone told me a quote a few weeks ago and I thought it was so interesting. They said, if you stop speaking, you stop existing. I think a lot of people don't truly grasp the importance of being able to share your thoughts with the world, or just being yourself and how you talk and how you treat others in the world. If somebody's going to remember anything about you when you leave this earth, it very well may be what you said to them or how you made them felt. So if knowing that your words or your actions have that much power, why be silent? Why, if you're in a room and you have the opportunity to make someone, you know, feel positively about themselves, why not do that? Not even necessarily on an egotistical way to try to make yourself live forever, whatever the case may be, but it's just a simple fact of just like, our existence has a ripple effect. You never know what you're doing. You having a conversation with someone can spark an idea that can change the world. So, you know, staying silent is, you know, it has its time and place, but I don't think that time and place is that often, that frequent. I think you should always just try to let people see how true you are to yourself and see who you are and appreciate that. Whether they appreciate it or not, it doesn't matter. They've experienced it. That's all they need to know. And then the other song, Act One, Scene One, that one's probably my favorite because it plays a lot on my love for Shakespeare. The reason I named it Act One, Scene One is because the hook, or pretty much, I guess, the breakdown of the song was like, I'm no Shakespeare, but I could turn a phrase. I write a couple rhymes just to make your eyebrows raise. So what's up? Whether you like it or not, guarantee by any means, you're going to see me at the top. It's just a matter of just like kind of letting people know who I am. I like to read, and I think a lot of my music kind of shows my personality and my interest in it. So when you hear me referencing basketball, you hear me referencing certain books or certain characters from certain things, that's just me being myself and staying true in my music.
In regards to music, I know that you've written a couple of the songs that you have written in your career. I would say one of them is Ambition, All Nighters, Born Winner, of course, Pop Shit, Only Everything. In regards to the songs that I've mentioned, what has been your growth and the development?
Ambition and All Nighters was the first tape. It was really just me. I didn't know what I was doing for real. I was coming out of high school, and I was just like working on a bunch of different beats and, you know, just getting songs down that I thought sounded cool enough for people to want to hear. There was no real structure. There was no real concept or anything like that. It was just like, it was a compilation of songs. It was tape. It was a mixtape. But even then, I listen to it now and I'm just like, a lot of it, very few songs on that tape, I would say, were really truly indicative of where my skill set was at that point in time. I think it was good. I think I'm always the type of person who feels like they could do better. When I started working on Only Everything, it was a bit more intention. It was a bit more allowing myself to get on the darker side of things, as far as like my songs like, you know, Lift Off, which is the intro, and then Roam, a more melodic version of just like pretty much talking about, you know, where I was at in my ambition and where I, you know, who I do this for. The growth there came in my content. Ambitions and All Nighters was really a bunch of bullshit. I'm not gonna say it was bullshit, like the songs were good, but it was just like I wasn't saying anything for real, at least not in the majority of the songs. And it was just, and that was because I was younger and I guess I had less to talk about. Only Everything really, as a concept, became a bit more mature in regards to who I was and who I was becoming at that time. So like the concept of the EP alone, like the title Only Everything, was an oxymoron, pretty much just saying that like if somebody were to ask me what I wanted, I'd be like, only everything. Thinking about that as a concept where it's just like you're looking at things, like the concept of taking a step back and looking at things that are so vast and so large and being able to shrink it down and make it possible was just a great feeling that I had at that point in time in my life that I wanted to share with people. Lift Off being the intro song was kind of indicative of that. Even Rome was indicative of that. And then Still Praying was indicative of that. Taking very large, huge concepts, huge ambitions and desires and shrinking it so that way you can make it digestible and say, I can do that. Like that's something I want. That's something I can have. That's something I can get. And so Only Everything was very much about my ability to be able to do that with the dreams and everything else that I'm pursuing. And then to now, the growth has come in, you know, I got a bit more mature in Only Everything. My music now, especially post 2020, was a lot more of being mature, but also allowing myself to be myself in my music. Be so caught up in trying to be who I thought people wanted me to be.
You know, you definitely have goals of being one of the biggest artists in the industry.
Be known as an artist that makes really good music. That's an achievement I want. I want my achievement in life to be to make music or to develop myself or to, you know, push myself so hard as an artist that I'm considered an artist that can be listened to 50, 100 years from now. You know, I want my music, I want to be able to I want to develop and be able to make timeless music. That's the achievement I want. You know, to a certain extent that may be a bit less quantifiable than the other, you know, the other achievements, saying, oh, I want this many streams, or I want, you know, this many platinum records, all these different things. But like, in all honesty, like that's what I want. You know, I want to be able to make really, really good music because I love really, really good music. So I always wanted to be the artist that did that. I always looked up to the Princes of the world, Michael Jacksons, to the Lauryn Hills, to the Jay-Z, to the Temptations, anybody and that will probably still have their music be spun and listened to and shared with children and their grandchildren years and years from now. That's where I want to be. That is the achievement I want.
What are the future goals?
I have a new single that's going to be dropping in May, and we're pushing that. Achievements and goals, be on lookout for that tour, because we're going to start with a small one and then the arena tour is coming. I'm telling you, man, once I get to that arena tour, we out of here. We're going to have to do a little bit more before that to be out of there so I can do the arena tour and the stadium tour, but really just take this music to the next level. I'm not trying to sound like anybody else, and I'm really just trying to make really good music. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for people writing about it. Be on the lookout for people even whispering my name, because it's going to be whispered before it's shouted from the rooftops, and I'm okay with that. We live in a generation where people don't necessarily find that much value in being the first people on the wave, and that's cool. People that are the first on the wave, you guys got something crazy in store for y'all, because I'm pushing myself to different heights and different levels. So the fact that y'all be able to experience the growth and the journey first is always dope, and I'll make sure y'all are rewarded for that.
Talk about this brand new single. Can you tell us any more information about it?
The single coming in May, or the single that's out right now?
The single that's coming out in May.
It's a hype one, man. It's like, and it's not even like the hype party type. It's really like a hype like motivation song. It's definitely a song that you can get in the gym and go crazy to. Like, it's one of those songs that, you know, if you're watching basketball highlights or sports highlights, that's the song you want to put on that's the song you want to put on, because I'm talking a lot about just like ambition and the drive to be successful, whether it be in sports, whether it be in life, and just talking about what you rep. Where are you from? What do you do this for? Who do you represent when you step out on the stage, when you step out into the world, when you step into the office, when you step out onto the field or the court? Like, rep yourself, but it's not just about you. What do you do this for?
Does it got a title yet?
Called rep, like rep. You know what I'm saying? And it's a good one. Y'all gonna like it. I promise that.
And we're here with a very special guest, Staten Island's very own Ladibree in the building. Already making headways. Got everybody on lock right now. This is your year, so just want to say I appreciate your time. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a pleasure talking to you.